Good morning, everybody. Wakanda forever. On this 17th day of January 2021. Happy New Year. I have not made a video. This was my first video of 2021. And oh boy. This country is in one of the biggest power struggles of reckoning that any of us have seen. I won't say any of us, most of us have seen in this lifetime. And why? Because we've come full circle. And those of us boomers who grew up at the tail end of Jim Crow know what this is. We know what time it is. We know that, like I say, it's a struggle because there's a lot of people that want to go to fall asleep on this shit, and there's a lot of people who don't. I say there are more people that want to fall asleep on this than people who want to wake the fuck up. Wake up to what's going on in the United States. We live here. This is our country just as much as it is anybody else's, even though, you know, there's a lot of people running around right now who are trying to claim this country as theirs and theirs alone. And I would call them white supremacists. That is going to be the title of this video, is white supremacy or white supremacists who have just gone off the rails on January the 6th when the election was to be certified by this political administration. And they decided to try to stop it by creating an insurrection that is illegal in this country and take the country, despite the Constitution and how the voting system works in the United States. Listen, I'm on the fence. I'm just going to tell you this up front. I'm on the fence as to whether this is our struggle to fight or not. Some of us believe it is. Some of us believe, and I'm talking about black people, and only black people. And why? Because we're tired of pretending that we aren't on, in terms of hierarchy, that we aren't on the bottom of the pile. The bottom of the pile of the United States, that we're not thrown under the bus first, in which we are, and that people are not screaming. They were screaming for a while, and I have said in previous videos in 2020 that was only a matter of time before the powers to be scared everybody off from the protests around George Floyd. Because listen, after he was murdered by that asshole cop, the murders continued, and nobody was really saying anything. They were and they weren't. They were protesting, but the protesting was getting lighter and lighter because they were peaceful protests. There were a bunch of troublemakers, and there was the United States government that came around to dismantle the peaceful protests, make them out to be the bad guys, make them out to be violent, make them out to be radical, make them out to be militant, make them out to be anything other than what they were, The people you need to keep your eye on, the motherfuckers that showed up at the Capitol building on the 6th of January. Those are extremists. Those are radical, radical insurrectionists. They are militant. They're the ones that this country needs to be afraid of, not BLM protesters. Give me a fucking break. And then you got to see how this government responded to them, to the insurrectionists, versus how they respond to the BLM. Everybody got to see up front and personal, if you wanted to look and open your eyes, that there's two Americas. One that reacts to black people and the other that reacts to whites. And I don't care that there were some black people in the crowd, Hispanics in the crowd, Asians in the crowd. Big fucking deal. That thing was totally about white supremacy. And of course, they've got some ignorant ass POC and black people and indigenous thinking they're going to get a pass for being in that camp. That doesn't mean the whole movement was generated on behalf of or for black people or POC or indigenous. No, it wasn't. That was a stab at that giving white supremacy power again in this country through these delusional folks running around with the Confederate flags, not realizing, well, then maybe they do realize that in the Civil War they lost trying to take over this government. So they get some idiot 45 comes along and ignites them, and they go running out there trying to create a coup, and they're in all sorts of trouble right now. Listen, I took some notes, and again, I'm going to be talking about voting. I'm going to be talking about things that you need to read between the lines and see what they mean for you, because we sure did pull some rabbits out of our hat this year because of COVID-19. The silver lining in that was that there was an even playing field in the voting system because of absentee voting. Now, they realize that now. They realize that we exercised our power and we won because of it. We were able to do whatever we wanted to do with the Senate, with the presidency, and oh boy, are they scrambling to undo that, to instill voter suppression again. So, people who are somewhat politically minded, we can see that when we do exert our power, it does work. But there's others who are just totally disenfranchised by the voting system, and they won't vote to save their life no matter what. They think we shouldn't be involved in those politics and that we should be taking care of our own. Black people should be investing in our own. We should be funding our businesses. We should be creating Black Wall Streets all over the nation and just fuck all that stuff, right? While I can see that as being possible, the momentum and the what's in our face right now is that we do have the power when it comes to voting. Getting our businesses and all that other stuff together is going to be a whole different ball of wax, because the country is so divided and people are splintered here, there, everywhere, in every community there is in the United States except for the white community. White supremacy. And I don't care what you're thinking. If you voted for that moron, the 50, hold on, I've got the numbers wrong. Maybe 55% of people in the United States voted for a known racist and white supremacist. And if you did that, I don't care why you did it. You're going along with the status quo, and you're going along with racist, and you're going along with that whole system. You're racist. You can cry and whine all day. We're not going to watch your white tears about saying how not racist you were. You voted for whiteness. You voted because you're scared you're losing your privilege and your control of this nation. Now, it's irrational fear because that's not a reality today, but it is a reality for the future because this country is changing. It's becoming browner and browner. And by the year 20-something, 2040-something, the number of BIPOC altogether are going to outnumber white people. And that's what this fear is all about. That's why people vote the way that they do. I don't care if it's at the state level. I don't care if it's at the federal level. They vote for morons and idiots. They don't care that they're morons and idiots. They vote for them because they know those people are going to maintain white supremacy and whiteness. That's why they vote the way they do. And if they vote that way, if you vote that way, you are a white supremacist, you're racist. There's no way to cut that up. There's no way to excuse you from the rank and file of the racists if you vote for them, including 45, Cittadini, racist in chief. He's got 1 million names by now. But if y'all vote for that, guess what you're voting for? Maintain the status quo. What is the status quo? Racism, oppression, suppression. That is how systemic racism is able to go on and on and on in this country, because you don't care how much of an idiot or pedophile or anything else that these people are. As long as they're maintaining whiteness, you will vote for them. 55% of white women voted for this racist in chief. Does that in 2020, does that tell you anything? It should. So anyway, I took some notes. Okay, before I get into that, I've been, laying low and off the market, out of YouTube. I've been playing mostly on Medium and The Root and other places, just trying to get myself together after my father passed. That was more of a devastating blow than I understood at the time. Because we had such a tumultuous relationship. Very confusing. There were very, very good things that happened, and there were very, very bad things that happened. And I am caught between knowing and feeling in my heart of hearts that he loved me and didn't hate me. And I think there was a little bit of both of that going on. So, if you can imagine having someone leave, having someone die, and that stuff not even be addressed with them before they left. So I'm having to address that on my own and come to some peace on my own. And that is not easy when somebody is not there to answer your questions, to find out what they were thinking. All I know is that in the end, he understood who I was, but it was too late for us to have a conversation about it. Okay, so that's a little bit of that. The other thing is, if you like this video, there's a subscribe button somewhere. I think it's over there. And you'll have to click, even if you subscribe, in order for you to get notifications that I'm going onto YouTube, you have to click the bell too and click all. And then you will get notifications that I uploaded a video. I don't go live yet. Now, I don't know if I ever will, but I don't go live. And right now I make videos and then I upload them from my phone onto YouTube. So like and share, comment if you'd like. I do read all of the comments. And so that's that for administrative purposes. So let's get back to this white supremacy thing. I hate to tell y'all, but especially white people and people who think like them. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're Asian. I don't care if you're Hispanic. I don't care if you're Native American. If you think like a white person, you're included in this conversation of white supremacy because you support it. If you vote for white supremacists, known racists, you support it, you're considered white in this conversation. Don't try to separate yourself from them just because you've got a little melanin in your blood. I don't care. You're still white. You still think white, you act white. You think they think you're white until they show you otherwise. So anyway, black people are getting to the point where it's like, you know what? We're not going to be silent anymore. We're not going to give you a pass on all of this bullshit you're creating around the world. We're not going to give you a pass when you jump up trolling in our articles, in our posts, in our videos, or whatever. It's time for us, black people, to stop giving them a pass to do this sort of thing and go unchecked. We're going to check y'all. Check. So, anybody making excuses for the insurrectionists, the people who attacked Capitol Hill on January the 6th, and anybody who was involved in it, you're in deep shit. You understand? If you were involved, if you went there, or you're one of the politicians who were involved in letting the Capitol Police, opening the doors to them coming in there and attacking the White House and knowing where everything was, knowing where offices were, knowing what they were doing. They were extremely organized. Y'all is in trouble. And I ain't even going to tell you how. You can go out there and look. There's a general that Pelosi is putting in charge, and I'm not sure what his name is because I saw 2 different articles talking about a black general. It may be the same guy. I don't know. But anyway, he's being put in charge of an investigation to get to the bottom of that insurrection and everybody involved. And they're all going to be charged with a crime. They shouldn't have been there. The white lady who got killed. You know how we feel about that? No love lost. Why? She should have been there. She shouldn't have been trying to take over the government. And of course, you do something like that, you might get killed. I know if black people had showed up like that, we wouldn't even got through their barriers. Okay, so it was white privilege all the way that allowed all of those people to stomp onto the grounds and to crash through barriers, through windows, through doors, and attempt a coup. United States government. A bunch of fucking morons acting like they're in a cult. Well, they're not acting. They are cult mentality people. They're just low intelligence, people who are just not thinking, and they don't know anything about history, and they don't know anything about the Constitution and how the voting system works. Or they know and they're mad because we exerted some control and power in this country when the playing field was evened. Interesting. So, voter suppression isn't going to be tolerated. We're going to be pushing back when they're trying. Georgia is already trying to change the voting laws again to make it so that, voter suppression is supreme again. They did not like what happened this year. For the first time in, I think, 27 years, Georgia turned blue. The presidency, the Senate, that wasn't supposed to happen, and because it did, they are going to white supremacists. Whiteness is trying to make it so black people don't have that kind of power ever again. Mark our words. I'm not the only one saying this. Roland Martin is saying it too. Yeah, the live he did on Friday, this past Friday, very telling. You might want to go out and look at it. So, the moving of the goalposts, the putting hurdles there for us to jump, when they realized that they had disappeared because of COVID. All this shit is just so plain. We're just sitting back watching it. Like, okay, this is not a surprise to us. It may be a surprise to a lot of people what is going on right now, but it's not a surprise to a lot of black people who have a political consciousness in this country. If you don't have a political consciousness, you missed it, and you're not paying attention, and you don't realize that the momentum is shifting in our direction. You know, people talking about reparations. You can't have that happen without the government, without politicians. And if you are voting for idiots to end up in your Senate and your House of Representatives every 2 years. Yeah, every 2 years, some of them come up for re-election. So if you keep voting these idiots in, and then you expect to have a conversation about reparations, you gotta work with these people, so you do have to have some political consciousness. So it doesn't make any sense that there's a lot of pro-black people telling you ignore it, ignore it, ignore it, and let's do our own thing. We still have to move and operate within the confines of capitalism in this country. So it'd be nearly impossible for us to build that kind of infrastructure in order to bypass everything white in this nation. No way. We got to share this country. So we got to work with them and they got to work with us, whether you believe in segregation or integration. It doesn't fucking matter. We can be doing our own thing in a segregated system and we still have to work within the confines of capitalism and the laws of this nation. If we don't like the laws, then we got to vote the right people in your local state to represent us at the federal level. But if you don't vote for anybody in locally, laws aren't going to change until you do. Change the people out that are in there that are voting against your best interests. And the white supremacists, they are voting people in that are working against their best interests, because these are rich white people that don't give a fuck about poor white trash. Okay? They don't care about you. They're using you to become career politicians who kind of look like they're working in your best interest, because they're still letting you hold on to this bit of white privilege you have. That's going to disappear too. You know, change is difficult for humanity, for human beings. But it's the only constant in life is change. And if you don't become at one in peace with change, then change is going to drive you crazy, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Whether you like it or not, things are changing. So I'm not even covering this shit in here in these notes. Sort of, kind of. If I look down, I'll notice a few words. So yeah, there's going to be a pushback against these unhooded white supremacists. There was a reason that they wore hoods. Your forefathers wore hoods because they didn't want anybody to know the dirty, nasty shit they were doing under those hoods. Now they think it's okay to take them off and run around acting like lunatics. We have no feelings for you whatsoever that you are exposed, and we're going to keep pressing our finger on that button until they drive you guys back into the ground or to jail and prison. Fuck that. No more. Your weak ass apologies trying to save your fucking jobs. Not going to accept those anymore either. We know they're weak apologies. We know they're just PR things. We know that I really haven't seen one white supremacist be sincere about an apology yet. It's all about their ass, and they're trying to save their job. And they're losing jobs left and right because they think it's okay to be racist assholes in public, and it's not. It's not normal. And the power struggle comes in when people try to normalize this shit when it's abnormal. It is not normal to have this big, huge fucking wealth gap. It's not normal for all these corporations to have monopolies on the world. That's not normal for them to be able to make all the goddamn rules and everybody has to dance and sing along and kumbaya and bullshit. The United States is the most diverse country in the world. And I'll be damned if we're going to sing to one racist tune in this nation. Time's up. Gotta go. Eventually that stuff's going to be driven out. I did mention Georgia. We did it. You know, we changed the Senate. Way to go. I was extremely pleased with that, and it was driving me crazy watching it on TV because the numbers kept switching and switching and switching. I finally turned it off and said, okay, I'll get back on. I'll turn the TV back on to a news station when it's over, because I couldn't watch that. That was like watching the stock market. I thought I was going to lose my mind. You know, back to these white supremacists. The country is not going to play with these thugs. Okay, so there was, I'm going to jump over to this lady. Her name is Ashanti Smith, and she was a security guard who was in the middle of all that crap, who was being harassed and having racial epithets thrown at her, and all sorts of stuff was happening before this woman, her last name was Duke, ran up and tried to grab the woman's phone, and she smacked her. She punched her. Bam! That punch was so quick, and you could hear it. Smack! It was like the video of the guy that hit the drunk white guy with a twisted tea can. You could hear that hit a mile away. Now, there's a lot of people that are, you know, oh, I don't promote violence and da-da-da-da, whatever. We're tired of y'all people. And Roland even said it. One day they're going to roll up on the wrong woman or man who isn't going to lay down for that anymore. You keep calling us out our name. You keep treating us like the N-word. You might get your lights punched out, whether you like and into violence or not. It's not up to you anymore. You would stand there and watch that shit and not even lend a hand to the person who's being abused. So they're getting their, you know, the chickens are coming home to roost, and they're getting their just deserves, because they shouldn't be doing that in the first place. So whatever happens to them as a result of picking on the wrong black person, the wrong Negro at the wrong time, who's not going to put up with that shit anymore. So anyway, Ashanti Smith, she's the one that bloodied this woman's nose. And then the woman's daughter, who was a lesbian, got kicked out of the house for being a lesbian. Her mother told her also, I don't condone you going out and protesting with the BLM protesters. She was caught in the insurrection, her mother. And so she ratted her mother out. And she's the one, her mother is the one that got punched in the nose and is going to yell victim because she got punched in the nose by a powerful black woman who she called black girl. That was not a girl. That's a full-grown woman who wasn't going to put up with her snatching and grabbing at her and trying to assault her. So Ashanti Smith, I'm going to put a link in the description of this video. She's got a GoFundMe. She was trying to get like $75,000 for her legal fees because they're trying to charge her with assault when she was being assaulted by these insurrectionists. Anyway, she lost her job. And right now, I just looked out there, the GoFundMe is at, I think, in the $270,000 range right now. So if you want to contribute to that fund, and I suggest you do, this is what white supremacists do for each other. Let's support this sister into getting her legal defense for what they did to her during the, she was a security guard working that day. And all these people were harassing her. So if you want to contribute to her legal fees, her legal defense, you can do so with the link I'm going to provide in the description. But the fact that the woman's daughter was wagging a finger at her about not only being a lesbian, but going to BLM protests, shows up at the insurrection, those thugs that went to the White House, her mother is totally hypocritical, and her daughter ratted her out. And you know what is happening all around the nation? People are saying, yep, I can identify that person that was there. Family, friends, spouses, all sorts of people are getting ratted out right now for violating the law, for committing crimes on the 6th of January. So they're not going to get away with it. The FBI is looking for them. A bunch of them got put on a no-fly list. The airlines aren't letting them back on the planes to get to wherever. You know, they can't show up and pull some shit like that. They thought their privilege was going to let them show up, try to take over the government, then jump on the plane and go home. So they could show up somewhere else later on and do this stuff. Nope, they're going to be made an example of, so that other people don't jump up and think they can get away with that too. If we don't make an example of them now, we're given the green light for these entitled, emboldened, privileged white terrorists to continue to terrorize the people of this country. We're not putting up with it anymore. Well, some of us are, but trust me, the activists and people that are real interested in what's going on in this country are not going to give them a pass ever again. So okay, yeah, so you know, maybe a lot of those people that showed up that day are still in DC trying to find a way home, or they're there to see what they could do on the day of the inauguration. And I suggest people stay at home that day. Every capital in the United States is preparing for these cult members, these white domestic terrorists, to pull something at the capitals on the inauguration day. Now that doesn't fare well for the rest of us, because they may say, well, we can't get to the Capitol, so who else can we harass? Guess who they're going to go after? Black people. That's who they're really mad at. They're not saying that out loud because, you know what, that would really blow the whistle on what they're doing. But they're mad at us because we exerted power and control without confronting and having to deal with them. And they want to force the issue and make us have to deal with them. Why? They don't control this country any more than anybody else does. But, you know, they would have you thinking otherwise, right? And you don't have to have a hood. You don't have to call us the N-word. You don't have to wear a cape, wear a robe, wear a hooded whatever. You don't have to be a blatant racist to be a racist in this nation. If you support these people, you're a racist without having to throw a punch. You're just letting them be the fall guys for your racism. So we're uncovering and taking the lid off and exposing this bullshit for what it is in this country. You know, all these people that are making excuses for them, you're a racist. Why would you make an excuse for people like that and who would try to overthrow the government? It makes no sense. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance ain't going to get you out of anything. Willful ignorance is even worse. I recently, okay, I don't want to make this thing too terribly long, but I recently was talking to a lady on Medium, and she said, you know, we need to stop calling them ignorant because that word indicates innocence. So I went out to Webster's Dictionary and looked up the word and looked up all of the related words to ignorance. No, ain't nothing about that. Ain't nothing about that word innocent does that make them look innocent because they're ignorant. And I'm telling you, these people are trying to act ignorant, and they're full of shit. Oh, I didn't know. Oh, blah, 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 blah. I didn't know they were racist. I didn't know. And then the insurrection is trying to claim innocence. No, ignorance. Ignorance of history, the right history, ignorance of the law, ignorance of the Constitution. Just all that ignorance is going to work against them. And it'll work against anybody who tries to claim that shit. So what's the solution to that? Get educated. Understand all branches of the government. You know, somewhere along the line, they stopped teaching civics classes in high school to teach people about the government, about how all of this stuff works. And I swear that was intentional, to dumb people down enough to go out and do your dirty work like these idiots did for racist in chief, who's on his way out and who should get charged with crimes immediately on the 20th, 3 days from now. He's trying to get somebody to pardon him. Really? First he claims he doesn't know nothing. He's not responsible for what happened on the 6th, when he was completely responsible for it. And why would he be seeking a pardon for it if he doesn't think he had anything to do with it? Okay, I don't want this to be about him, because he's full of shit and he lies, and that's who he is. He only cares about himself. He wasn't there to help any of those people. Thank God. He just orchestrated it and made sure that they got a pass to end up in the White House, inside of it. Chasing people around and going in offices, and all the stuff that they did, it was disgusting. So it's up to you to educate yourselves, and it's up to you to educate your children on the truth of what's really going on in this country. God knows social media and a whole bunch of other things have been dumbing people down, because those people have the attention span of a fucking flea, and they don't want to sit down and read and study history or politics or the government or civics. Out the window come, everybody wants the quick hit to their dopamine in their brain. See, they don't want to just sit down and read. I'm a reader. I read a lot, and I write. So I'm not one of those people, but there's a lot of people who are just taking reading for granted and thinking this stuff, they're going to get it off of social media. That is the last place you'll get any accuracy on how this country works, how this world works, how human beings work. You're not going to get any of that off of social media. All you're going to get is a bunch of excitement and dopamine for the day. And then you'll come back tomorrow and do the same thing over and over again, trying to get that dopamine hit. It's like people are addicted to being online, and they're not using being online, they're being used. You know the difference? Is it clear? There's a difference between being used by the wave of the world versus using what's there and available for you if you want to go look for it. Again, you're not going to find it on social media. You're not going to find it talking to your friends and your family and your coworkers, and you're not going to find it there. You're going to have to go out and read this stuff that's been sitting in libraries waiting for people to understand it. The data is there. Cognitive dissonance works in all of humanity. And there's a whole bunch of people who the truth is sitting there, and it could smack them in the face and they still deny that it's there. Especially these people who are practicing birtherism and who are saying that racism doesn't exist and we're in a post-racist society. What planet are they on? And what rock are they hiding under that they believe that? Again, it's a lack of education and a whole bunch of ignorance going on out there. So, the message that I would put out is, don't let people off the hook anymore. And I don't care what race you are. Now, if you're caught up in this cognitive dissonance thing, you're gonna let people off the hook. But if you're not, and you see something wrong, call it out. That will unify this country quicker than trying to unify a whole bunch of different kinds of people to try to get the same ideology. You understand? But when you see something wrong, you call it out. Don't just sit there and go, oh shit, and just walk away. People are saying, well, there's nothing I can do. It's on the children. It's on the youth. No, it ain't. You can pick up the doggone phone and call your Congress people. You can pick up the phone and make anonymous calls to the police station. You can pick up the phone, or you can write. You can send emails. There's all sorts of things you can do from the comfort of your home, where you don't have to get up. You don't even have to be known. You don't have to go out there and beat the pavement. You don't have to go to BLM protests. You don't have to do any of that. But you can fight, and you can make a difference. And don't be putting this on other people, because if you do, you're part of the problem, and you're complicitly letting racism run rampant in this country, where there's a whole bunch of people who are interested in stopping it and getting rid of it. Now, I would say it's on white people to get rid of it, because they created it. We've been trying to get rid of it for over 400 years, going on to 500 years. We have been trying to get rid of it. And the reason why we can is because they created it, they maintain it. Today is being maintained by white supremacy and whiteness. And there's just no way in hell that we can dismantle that. It's up to white people to do it, and they don't need us to do that. They need to talk to each other. They need to talk to each other in the executive suite. They need to talk to each other in the boardrooms. They need to talk to each other in the country clubs. They need to talk to each other. They need to call each other out on the carpet on this. Unless they're interested in just maintaining the status quo and going along with racists. Chocolate, vanilla, choose. If you don't choose, and you're on that other side of history, where you want things to stay the way they were in the fucking 1950s and prior, then you're complicitly racist. And when Trump said, make America great again, what was implicit in what he was saying and totally out there was make America white again. Guess what? We ain't going back to that. There's a lot of people interested in not going back to that. I was born in the 1950s. And even though I didn't see what was going on because I was a baby, I experienced part of that shit as a youngster. I ain't going back. And I'm going to try to convince as many people as I can to not go back. And you don't have to be out there and visible in order to ensure that it doesn't. You don't. Just use your head. And use your time. And use your email. And use things that are available to you to fight back and make a difference, and not let this country go anywhere near back to 1950s. We got to come forward again, because we done let that asshole for 4 years take us back there, and it's time to stop that too. How many white, I already said this, but how many white women voted for him again? More white women voted for him in 2020 than voted for him in 2016. They are interested in maintaining status quo. And a lot of those women were in $100,000 a year or more income levels. And a lot of them weren't. But I'm telling you, this stuff goes so deep. And again, they're voting for these people, voting for these racists, and then going around to their black friends and all these other people saying we're not racist because, see, we don't do those things that they do. Whatever. If you vote for somebody else to go do your dirty work, you're still complicitly involved in furthering racism. I should have had some water next to me because my mouth is real dry. But anyway, yeah, none of this stuff is normal. And we got to stop that too. Stop normalizing this shit that's abnormal. It's abnormal. I don't care if it's been normalized on social media. It's abnormal. Wake up. Wake your brain up. It's like what's abnormal is abnormal. What doesn't work for society, this country as a whole, doesn't work. If it only works for white people, it doesn't work. Because there's a whole bunch of us here, and it's our country too. And with that, I'm going to bid you adieu. The weekend is up. It's Martin Luther King's holiday on Monday, so I want people to enjoy that. Enjoy their time off. Other than that, you know, I think we should be celebrating Black history 365 days a year. Because we're living this history and living color right now. Yeah, the history has become our present. So anyway, with that, I will say good night, good morning, and enjoy, for you watching the playoffs, enjoy watching the football games today. Pollinator is out.